Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another instant deck tech. So today we are looking at this super sweet, incredibly aggressive deck for Modern called Kuldotha Red. Recently took Jordan McClutchin to a top 8 finish at a SCG States event, so congrats to Jordan on his finish with the deck. Quick reminder before we break it all down, if you like this deck and want to see it made into videos, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos for the next week. Anyway, let's talk Kuldotha Red. The deck slightly resembles the 8-Whack Goblins deck we played a while ago on Budget Magic. The main difference is it's not really Goblins tribal. It does have a lot of Goblins, but it's not a tribal Goblins deck. Instead, it is even more aggressive than the 8-Whack deck that we played. This deck is probably the most aggressive deck in all of Modern. So instead of just 8 Whacks, it is sort of playing 12 Bushwhacker effects with the help of Signal Pest. So all of these are creatures that can give your team +1/+0 until end of turn. Goblin Bushwhacker and Reckless Bushwhacker cost 2 mana essentially, assuming you pay the kicker cost or the surge cost, and they give your entire team haste and +1/+0 until end of turn. So it's a way to get in a ton of damage, assuming you can go wide with a bunch of little creatures. And then Signal Pest gives your team +1/+0 whenever it attacks through the Battle Cry mechanic. So obviously these creatures want you to go wide with a bunch of small creatures, get them down quick, and then play these Bushwhacker effects to close out the game super fast. But the way the deck goes wide is super interesting. So this deck, instead of playing a bunch of goblins like 8-Whack, this has an artifact sub-theme built around the card Kuldotha Rebirth. So Kuldotha Rebirth, way over on the right, 1 mana red sorcery. You gotta sack an artifact when you cast it, and you get 3 1/1 red goblins. So the idea is, on turn 1, you'll be able to play a Memnite or an Ornithopter or a Darksteel Citadel, plus another card we'll talk about in a minute, to sack to Kuldotha Rebirth to get the 3 goblins. Then on turn 2, you can kick a Bushwhacker, hit for 8 damage. Turn 3, kick a Bushwhacker, hit for 10 damage or whatever, and just close out the game really fast. The other advantage of the Memnites and Ornithopters are that they are 0 mana cards for the surge cost on Reckless Bushwhacker, so there's some synergy there as well. But that's the basic idea. Play an artifact on turn 1, Kuldotha Rebirth to get the goblins, then just Bushwhack your opponent into oblivion. There are a few other creatures in the deck. Goblin Guide and Swift Spear are just very strong 1-drops. Both have haste, can hit for a ton of damage. Swift Spear also gets prowess triggers when you cast your Kuldotha Rebirth. So these are just more creatures that are fast, can get on the battlefield early and help you close out the game. Simian Spirit Guide speeds up the entire process. If you have a Darksteel Citadel on turn 1, you can use Spirit Guide to sack it to Kuldotha Rebirth. It also just helps you play more things. On turn 2, if you have a Spirit Guide, you can exile it, play a Goblin Guide plus a Bushwhacker effect, for example, after you Kuldotha Rebirth on turn 1, and get in even more damage. Otherwise, got a little bit of spell-based reach. 4 bolts, 4 Goblin Grenades, and 3 Atarka's commands. Bolt and Goblin Grenade, you can use them to clear blockers out of the way, but their real power is getting in those last few points of damage and making sure that you can close out the game. If you only can get in 15 points with your creatures, these cards make sure you can still win. And Atarka's command almost functions like another whack effect, but on a spell, because it gives your entire team +1/+1 until end of turn, and it also deals 3 damage. So when you're going wide with Kuldotha Rebirth, that represents a ton of damage out of nowhere. Mana base wise, bunch of fetches, some stomping grounds, some mountains, nothing to write home about. And the sideboard, interestingly, can kind of transform into a Blood Moon deck to be a little more resilient. But since Blood Moon is expensive and the deck's only running 16 main deck lands, you gotta have a mountain in your sideboard as well, and another Simian Spirit Guide. So if you're bringing in expensive things in your sideboard, make sure to make room for the Simian Spirit Guide and the mountain too, or you might just never cast your Blood Moon. Gravedigger's Cage and Spellskite help against specific problems, graveyard-based decks, collected company-based decks. In Spellskite's case, decks like Infect that are using pump spells. Also protects from removal. You get some more removal of our own. Fork Bolts, Electrickeries, good ways to deal with a lot of little creatures. One way the deck can lose, since it doesn't really have trample, is like Lingering Souls, goes wide, does a bunch of chump blocking, fizzles your whack effects. Electrickery takes care of all that. And Shrapnel Blast is almost another Goblin Grenade in this deck, since it deals 5 damage and there's tons of artifacts to sack. And then Destructive Reverie and Ancient Grudge, some artifact removal. Anyway, that is Kuldotha Red for Modern. The deck is super aggressive and pretty exciting. If you like the 8-Whack deck, for Modern that we played a while ago. Check this one out. It's like an even more aggressive version of it that gets to play some really cool synergistic artifacts. Anyway, thank you all for watching our Kuldotha Rebirth Instant Deck Tech. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon.